Churches have an interesting challenge to navigate in a global pandemic. In order to slow down or prevent the spread of coronavirus, governments in many parts of the world are beginning to either highly discourage or flat out ban large public gatherings. Worship gatherings are large public gatherings that range from dozens to thousands of people. So what do we do as church leaders to facilitate some sort of worship gathering experience for our congregation if we can't meet together in person? In this video, I'm going to unpack for you simple ways to host a virtual worship gathering for your congregation so that your team can start making plans in the case that you're unable to actually have a large public gathering at your church. I'm going to start with some minimal viable options that cost practically $0 to create an online experience, and then we'll kind of dive deeper into the gear and software you would need to build a prosumer live stream setup. And I do want to say before we dive into how to actually create the experience online, make sure that your church is leveraging all of the digital channels it should be to communicate with your congregation, because you can make an online virtual worship gathering for your church, but if nobody knows about it or they don't know how to get to it, then it's pretty pointless. So make sure that your church's website is up to date. Hopefully you're using a modern website builder like Squarespace, Nucleus, Wix, or WordPress, and that someone at your church is the point person to be able to make updates to that site quickly. Next, make sure that your email list is up to date and it's functioning. You're using MailChimp or some sort of email service provider to be able to send out broadcast emails to your church to let them know what's happening. Email is old-fashioned, but it's still the best form of communication to get the message to people you need to online. And finally, make sure you are leveraging online social accounts. At the bare minimum, have a Facebook page for your church and have a YouTube channel. So let's dive into option number one. This is probably the most minimal viable, scrappy way of creating an online worship experience for your church. And what you're going to do if you go this route is you are going to create a worship service web page. Think of this web page, and I have an example of what this looks like here in front of me. Think of this web page as a virtual liturgy for your congregation. So during the week, you as a church leader can build out this web page with your team, and then come Saturday or Sunday, you can email this to your church and let them know if you're canceling services that you're canceling, don't come to church, and then have them work through the liturgy that you put on this web page so that they can actually worship just with their families and maybe a few friends at home. So let's look at this demo site that I made. I'm going to link this below this video so you get an idea of what I'm talking about here. So this is going to be a page. It's going to be like yourwebsite.com/online worship or something easy to remember like that, and that you can share on your social channels or with your email list. And I have a simple banner, welcome to our online worship experience. And then if you scroll down this page, it's just like scrolling through a worship service experience. And what I did is the videos on this page, I just recorded on my phone, and you can watch these videos and kind of get an idea of what they should be about. But you really just want to make it so that people can have a self-directed worship gathering experience for them and their family. So there's a welcome video here, kind of gives them instructions on what to do. And then we have a section called Worship Through Song and Reading. So here's a call to worship reading. There's a resource called the Worship Source Book. You can get the Kindle version of that. There's all sorts of call to worship readings and scripture readings and things like that that people can use to do some responsive readings at home. And then you can paste some, YouTube videos here. We have lyrics in these videos. The lyrics show up on the screen behind us. This is my actual band at Mission Lakewood. Or you can just get lyric videos on YouTube. So search Hillsong Worship lyric videos and you'll see a bunch of them. And then you don't have to add lyrics in. People can just watch the video and sing along. Then we have a section for church news or announcements and giving. So this is a short video on that, and then a little give online button beneath it. This is a great time for people to set up online giving at your church if they haven't already. So make sure there's a button for them to do that and set it up easily. Then you can have the sermon message online as well in this format. So have your pastor record themselves giving the message. I would recommend that they get some sort of like iPhone holder or smartphone holder for a tripod. And they don't need fancy video equipment. The camera on this phone, the microphone on this phone will sound plenty good enough for just talking to it, as a pastor. So have them record that video and all these little videos, upload to your YouTube channel. That's all free. Make it unlisted and then just put it on this webpage. And then finally, I have a closing song. So I think this is like the cheapest, easiest way to have some sort of online experience if you have no live streaming equipment or you just don't want to go that route, but you still want to have something for your congregants to do on Sunday mornings with their family. Option number 2 is to use the Facebook or the YouTube app on your smartphone or even on your laptop computer and just go live with your church's account. And you can go live at the time of your regular services. And this is a pretty scrappy way to do live streaming, but it works. And just be creative with it. I mean, you can only be so creative, but for example, here's what I would do. Theoretically, if this is what our church had to do, I would go to my pastor's house. We'd find a spot in his house, make sure that, the way we're directing the camera or pointing the camera, that like we are facing a natural light source, like a window, like I am right now. And then I would get one of these little holders to put my smartphone on a tripod. I'll put links to these things below this video. And then we would just press go live at the time of our service, 10 a.m. on Sundays. And I, as a worship leader, would have my acoustic guitar and maybe just lead some people in some music. Maybe you can also have this worship service webpage idea that I just unpacked, and you could actually put the lyrics of the songs on that webpage so people can maybe watch the live stream on one device and then have another phone or something like that where they could actually look at the lyrics and sing along. When you're doing sort of a scrappy Facebook or YouTube live on a smartphone, you can't really overlay lyrics and do all that fancy stuff that we'll talk about later on in this video, but it's still a great way to get started and you can still engage people. It's just going to be a lot more raw and a lot more real. And then when you're done the live stream, make sure you title it appropriately, and then that can just live on your website too. And you could actually create, put it on the homepage of your site or create one of these worship service pages that I just showed you. So far, the first 2 options we've covered for creating that online virtual worship gathering, they're completely free. Like, you probably already have a website, you have a smartphone, all the apps we talked about are completely free to use, and you have everything you need to create that type of worship gathering for your church. And maybe that's going to be the best solution if you find out, like, today, which is like a Thursday, that Sunday you can't meet, and you just simply don't have time to find all the right gear to put in place for a nice like live stream setup. But maybe you want to have a better long-term solution for your church to worship in this virtual way. And that brings me to option number 3, where we can explore building a prosumer live streaming setup for your church. And here's where we get into options that require much bigger of an investment, starting from a few $100s to multiple thousands of dollars. But this investment will allow you to just create a more professional, more immersive online experience for your congregation. And here's the truth. There are lots of ways you can go about building a prosumer broadcast setup for your worship gatherings, and it's really difficult for me to recommend a one-size-fits-all for every single small to mid-sized church out there. At Mission Lakewood Church, our immediate plan, while we can at least still meet as a church, is just to continue posting our entire worship services online after we record them on a Sunday morning. So we post our services on Sunday afternoon after we're able to mix down and edit them. But in the event that we're unable to actually meet together as a large group of people, we're at 100 people, so we're not more than 200, so maybe we could continue to still meet. Maybe the ban will be for a number of people too large that even applies to our church. But let's say we can't meet together, then I'm going to sit down with our pastor and we're just going to figure out what's maybe a more kind of stripped down worship experience that we can still live stream high quality. Maybe that is, again, going to his house, but I can bring our digital mixing console and maybe we plug in a microphone and an acoustic guitar and a keyboard rig, and then a microphone for him, and we have our Pro Presenter computer. There is a way, and I'm going to keep you guys updated as I figure this out for ourselves, to like create just a really small, simple, but high quality live stream setup for a church. And what's cool about this stuff is, like, if you're not meeting together live at your regular church venue, we meet at a high school, you don't necessarily have to like set up in your actual normal worship space, right? It could be at someone's house or in an office space. So you and your leaders really have to kind of figure out what's the final product of what we want to be putting online. Do we just want to share exactly what we do in our normal worship space, or do we want to kind of be more flexible and record and stream this from a different environment, and actually maybe be more intentional about producing content for online rather than taking something that happens live and then just putting it online like what most churches do? So there's some strategic questions that are going to be answered there. But regardless of the overall format and what you're trying to output from this live stream, there are some key tools that you're going to want to have in place to make this possible. So I'm going to give you a general overview of the key pieces of software and hardware you're going to need to start building a prosumer live stream setup. So first, you're going to need a camera. At our church, we use the Panasonic GH5. It's a very versatile camera, and it has an HDMI output on it that we can run into our video interface, which then goes into our computer. But Canon makes some amazing camcorders. PTZ Optics makes some great pan, tilt, zoom cameras that you can use as well. Make sure you also have a tripod for the camera so you can place it in the back of your sanctuary, maybe in your tech booth at the back of the room, or wherever else you're going to be streaming from. Next, you're going to need a video interface, which is going to be able to take the video signal from your camera through the HDMI cable or maybe an SDI cable. It's going to go into that video interface, and that's going to convert it to either Thunderbolt or USB, depending on what converter you get, so that you can plug it into your computer, and then your streaming software, video capture software, is going to be able to detect that video source. Speaking of your computer, I recommend having a pretty powerful computer to run your streaming software. It's quite a bit of processing going on there with the graphics. So my recommendation is a 15-inch MacBook Pro from the last few years. It'll be plenty powerful enough. It's worth noting here, if you wanted to have a multiple camera setup, you could get the Blackmagic Design ATEM Television Studio or the Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini HDMI Live Switcher. Honestly though, if you are brand new to live streaming, I just want to discourage you from just dropping thousands upon thousands of dollars on a multi-camera setup. I just don't think it's definitely the prudent thing to do at this point. You can still have a really quality live stream experience if you have one really good camera angle that's kind of wide enough to capture everything. When you start with one camera in a video interface, you'll still be able to use those pieces of gear down the road as your system expands. And if you don't use them, just sell them on eBay. On your laptop, you're going to want to run some sort of video capture and streaming software. My favorites include Wirecast, vMix, Ecamm Live, and then also there's a free open source version called OBS. You'll also want to be able to capture audio from your mixing console. So if you have a digital mixing console like the X32, the simplest way to get audio into your computer with your live stream software is to use a simple 1 or 2 channel audio interface, send a mix bus output from your mixing console so you can actually mix your broadcast mix a bit independently from what people would hear at front of house. And then you can go ahead and send that analog XLR cabling into the audio interface, and then your software, whether that's Wirecast or OBS or vMix, will be able to pull in that audio and then line it up with your camera feed. And in most pieces of software, you can make some latency adjustments so that the video and the audio line up perfectly. If your church is serious about having the most reliable stream for your audience so you don't have any dropouts or network interruptions, then check out the products at livingasone.com. Living as One is a company that makes both the hardware encoders as well as the software service to basically have the most reliable streams ever. This is the same software that the big churches use, like Elevation, Life Church, Red Rocks Church, and they basically crack the code on just delivering the information across the internet, even a lousy internet connection, in a delayed, like a 2-minute delayed and reliable way, so that when people are watching the stream, they like never experience buffering or packet loss or any of that stuff that I'm not even going to try to fully understand. I know the team at Living as One is swamped right now from a bunch of people wanting their stuff for this purpose, but you can go to their website. They have a great guide on how to get started with their gear, and you can definitely hop on the phone and talk to them about that. But it's not completely necessary to go that route. It definitely could be a good long-term solution if your church really gets into streaming and wants the most reliable setup ever. Another important thing to consider with this prosumer setup is to actually be able to put the lyrics from your worship songs in ProPresenter onto the video that you're going to be sending out to your audience so they can actually sing along that way. Or you want to be able to just bring in your presentation from ProPresenter for people to see sermon notes and slides and scripture readings. ProPresenter has made it so dang easy to do this with the new NDI screen feature that they have built into the software. You can have ProPresenter running on the same computer as your primary streaming software, or if it's on another computer, this works too. But when you enable the NDI output in ProPresenter and you create an NDI screen, it's automatically going to show up as a video source in software like Wirecast and any other software that can detect NDI sources on its network. So it can be over Wi-Fi, make sure the computer's on the same Wi-Fi network, or make sure they are on the same local area network, or just the applications are on the same computer. This stuff just blows my mind. And that's the easiest way to overlay lyrics and send over any video content or image content from ProPresenter to your streaming software. And you don't need any additional hardware. So finally, once you have your camera set up, you have your audio coming into your live stream software, and you have your ProPresenter NDI signal coming into your streaming software, you're pretty much ready to go live. And within OBS, Wirecast, vMix, they all make it really easy to send your stream to your Facebook or YouTube account. All of these pieces of software have tutorials. If you just use Google, find the appropriate tutorial for each of them, you'll be able to set it up fairly easily. I could talk all day about the various options out there of how to build a reliable live stream setup, and it's really hard to give a one-size-fits-all because I don't think that really exists. Be sure to subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be releasing more videos in coming days, weeks, and probably months on just how to build a really high-quality live stream setup, especially in a small to mid-sized church setting. Because let's face it, we have the challenges of limited resources and limited manpower. You know, in our case, like, I have pretty much all the gear I need to do an awesome live stream, but you still got to have someone dedicated to like switch the videos and mix the broadcast mix. So there's just some big hurdles that I'm trying to figure out how to navigate at our church before we actually go live. But now with this pandemic, we may not really have a choice, and we might actually just have to go ahead and use what we've got and who we've got to go live. In conclusion, I hope this video has given you a roadmap of the various options out there. You can start scrappy, start with a simple web page, or start with, you know, basic going live on your YouTube or Facebook app. And then once you've addressed the immediate need of having something available for your congregation over the coming weeks, then you can look into some maybe more long-term solutions, more professional setups. I just want to discourage you from even I hesitate sharing the information in this video of the professional setup because I don't want you to go out there and drop $5,000 on a live stream system when in reality it's just like it's overkill for your situation, and you don't even have the manpower to work that system. So definitely try to get by with less and doing higher quality productions with less gear, and I think that's just going to be way better off for your church in the long run. I'm going to list a bunch of other videos and even channels below this one where you can start diving into some of these specific setups that I mentioned in this video. Be sure to let me and the Churchfront community know what questions you have about live streaming below in the comments of this video. If I can't answer your question, I've seen it time and time again that other subscribers on the channel are very, very helpful to help you out. So leave your questions below, and if you can help someone, please answer the question for them. Best of luck as you navigate creating virtual worship gatherings for your church in the midst of a pandemic, and make sure you subscribe because, like I said, I'm going to come out with more videos in the coming days and weeks to help you out, to hopefully equip you, give you clarity on which direction you should head to continue to lead gospel-centered and tech-savvy worship at your church.